All right. Thank you so much, Miriam. I'm so happy to see everybody this evening, morning, wherever it is that you're calling in from. When Miriam asked me to be part of this, I thought to myself, why haven't we done this before? And I can see from the range of people, I was scrolling through to see those whose photos are on, that we actually have the young and the old. But I have a question. Do we have anybody here today that's below the age of 13? Just put your hand up on the function or in the chat. I'd really like, oh, I see somebody's hands there. Semaganda Hazel. I see somebody, you're below 13. Anyone else? Is anyone else chatting? Okay, so we do have people below the age. Yes, me, JS4. Oh, wow. And then there is also TT or something. Yes, well, I'm happy
my
that
children
you're
are watching as well, and they're all under 13.
Oh, good. And then do we have the majority of people, I assume, are between 13 and 25? I'm just going to assume. I can see we have people be above 25. That's all of us on the panelists. Those ones already ticked off, and some parents that are already here. So I will go with the fact that we have majority between the ages of 13 and 25. You're wondering, what is this got to do with anything? Let me delve into it, because Miriam gave me a wonderful task of trying to summarize years of such a deep topic into 10 minutes. So I will try. Please note, everything that we're sharing today is just an introduction. It's just kind of like a teaser. We're not going to cover everything. We won't answer all the questions, but it will be an introduction for you if you want to delve further into it, to reach out through CARES 360. And I'm really grateful that we have that platform. Emotional intelligence, usually known as emotional quotient, which you usually say that person's IQ is high because it's an intelligent quotient. This is emotional quotient. So we also can say, hey, that person's EQ is low or it is high. It's usually referred to as social quotient. The ability to be able to just manage socially and be able to communicate. Now, technical definition is the ability to monitor your emotions and the emotions of other people, and the ability to distinguish between these emotions and label these emotions correctly. Please let me go back. Monitor my emotions, my people's emotions around me, label those emotions correctly, not, I saw her seated there under the tree, she looked annoyed. And yet, when you get closer, maybe it's because there was a doodoo that had bitten her foot and she was in pain. So the ability to label the emotion correctly, use this information to guide your thinking and behavior so that you can influence your own response and that of others. Now I'm going to break it down for those who are below 13. For example, is there any Juliana here? If there is, it's not me against you. Sonia is seated in the room. She's had a bad day and she's not happy. She's angry. Then she hears this Juliana coming and parking the car. And Juliana is always so excited to see everybody. And Sonia's like, oh God, I really don't want to deal with her right now. I'm sure many of us have been there. But what do? We can either say, okay, I'm not happy. Maybe I ignore her and I tell them to tell her I'm not here. What happens, Juliana knows the car is around. Later on, she finds out, Sonia didn't want to see you. She was in the room. Then Juliana starts to think, but why? Did I do something to her? Juliana goes, tells Peter, Peter tells Simon. Before you know it, people are talking about Sonia, that she's not a good person. Because in that context, Sonia was not able to manage her reaction towards Juliana. Now, there's another way we could handle this. Sonia hears Juliana is coming. She breathes in and says, okay, not a good time, but let her come. Juliana enters the room. And then Sonia says, hi, Juliana. Then Juliana says, you don't look fine. I say, man, Juliana, I've had a bad day. I'm so annoyed. I'm upset. But it's okay. I'll deal with it. Juliana feels that Sonia is upset, but it's not anything to do with me. So Juliana will walk away and she will not start saying, what happened to Sonia? Now, Sonia in the second part is using what we call emotional intelligence. I hope I've been able to explain it in the simplest possible way. It's the same thing as when, sorry parents, I'm a parent, we're going to talk to parents as well. You've had a hard day at work, you're seated in the sitting room, your children are excited, they've come home, daddy, 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 and you're shouting, leave me alone, go to the other room. And yet you could just say, hi, how are you? You hold it for those 5 seconds so that the message you give to your children is, it's not your fault. I love you. But right now, daddy's tired. He needs to rest. That's emotional intelligence. I'm going to park that there and I'm going to come back to it. But I have to also let us all know that this doesn't mean that, like, for instance, me talking about it, I'm perfect at it. No, it's a constant journey of learning to manage our emotional intelligence. And it's a challenge. It's a challenge in the workplace, bosses against the subordinates, peers. It's a challenge at school. Even when you go to a restaurant, you've gone, you're hungry, this waiter is taking their time to bring you food, your children are screaming. What do? You react. What does the waiter do? He reacts. Basic communication that could have been avoided if we're all emotionally aware and have that emotional intelligence. So it's important that we're not caught off guard. What I would like to make a note here is that people that have high levels of emotional intelligence are more successful in life. Because obviously, they're going to have less enemies along the way, or they're going to be more pleasant to deal with. I'm not saying that if you have emotional intelligence, you never show when you're annoyed or upset or when you're disappointed. You do. But there is a way in which you can communicate it so that you influence the other person's behavior. I'll come back to that and I'll show us how it ties in with the next part. Let's talk about the brain, because all these emotions I'm talking about, they come from somewhere. They don't come from the foot, they don't come from the finger, they're not from the nose, they're from here. So the young gentleman who is below the age of 9, guess what's happening to you right now? Between the ages of 9 and 13, an amazing thing happens in our brains. All of a sudden, all these emotions are released. All of them, like a burst of balloons in the brain. That's why in this age period, the child, you wake up in the morning, they're happy. The next day, they're sad. The other day, they don't want to talk to people. Then the parents are like, what's wrong with this one? Then you ask the child, what's wrong? I don't know. How are you feeling? I don't know what I'm feeling. And it's true. Like Miriam said, when the girl said, I don't know what happened. It's true. They don't know what happened because the part of the brain that's supposed to control, moderate, regulate, interpret those very many emotions that the brain has started releasing is not fully developed. And until it's fully developed, we're somehow not able to be in control of our emotions. That's why teenagers seem to look erratic. They look like they're doing crazy things and people don't understand. It's because they themselves are really confused. And if we as adults understood, because we don't probably remember how it felt to be in that body where all these changes are taking place. You're listening to the social media. You're trying to be like this one, Kardashian, I hear. Then the footballers, you're trying to be like, who is it? Those ones, I forget their names. So you're trying to develop your personality. You're trying to develop so many things. And then there are all these emotions. But the brain part at the front, the frontal cortex, has not developed to be able to help you to do that. It's like giving a child a Ferrari. You give them the key, but you haven't taught them how to drive. So they have this very powerful machine, but they don't know how to use it. And until they're able to learn to use it, they are not able to drive. So they need guidance. Do you know at what age the frontal cortex fully develops? Are you ready for it? 25 years old. So the young adults here, I can see some people's faces like, yes. Until you're about 25, the brain has not fully developed at the front. So guess what? You need guidance. Now, I'm saying all these things so that we understand there's no need to panic. Parents, don't panic when the children look like they're acting crazy. It's okay. They're supposed to act crazy. Children, don't look at the parents and say, these people don't understand us. They don't understand. But hopefully now with this information, they understand. But we have this problem where we have us against them. They're there, those old ones, those Z's. And then we, the older ones, are saying, these kids, these teenagers. So we end up suppressing. The teenagers end up rebelling. And what do you have? An impasse. Until the child says, I can't wait to get out of this house. Then children say, the parents say, you wait and you grow up. You will see what it's like out there. And these are all not necessary. Because when we say these things, we develop certain suppressive personalities in the children that later expose themselves in the workplace. They're not able to manage jobs. They get angry all the time. We find people having a lot of mental issues, suicide, because they feel no one can understand them. They're not able to express themselves. So we have a lot of children, the youth, a certain bracket in Uganda. I'm sure Pamela is going to explain to you, you meet them for an interview, they can't express themselves. Because growing up, they were told, be seen, not heard. Then in the African culture, if you have a Zungu, what are you talking about? What? Emotions where? What? But this is actually science. Forget about culture. Culture is important, and it also has a lot to play in emotional intelligence, but a lot of this has got to do with science. So the reason why we're here is just knowledge is power. Let's be sensitive with our teenagers as they navigate this very, very delicate period of their lives. And teenagers, let us also be understanding that we haven't yet fully developed, so we need guidance. I am going to speak to the parents and the adults and myself and anyone that is taking care of a person between the ages of 9 and 25. Please approach them with understanding, with care. Do not exasperate them. What does that mean? You know, where it's almost as though you have two adults fighting, except one is a teenager, the other one is a parent. But because the parent wants to impose power, the teenager is pushing back. Because the teenager is like, you should have talked to me nicely. You should have asked me nicely. Yes, now what the teenager is doing is wrong, because the teenager also has to be respectful. I'm going to come to that. So parents, please try and seek help to learn how to deal with teenagers from an emotional, intelligent perspective, and learn to start to teach the teenagers about emotional intelligence. It's never too late to start learning, and it's never too early to start learning. Teenagers and youth, because we have not fully developed, please, those rules are there to guide you. Those rules are there to help you. They are not there to suppress you. Yes, it looks like they're suppressing you because maybe the way it's communicated is wrong, but I'm talking about the ideal world where the parent understands, okay, this is what's going on with my teenager. The teenager understands this is what's going on with me, and that's why mommy and daddy are offering guidance. Because a teenager can come and say, it's 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm going out. Where are you going? Because for them, they have this fearless, they don't fear, the emotions are so strong, the adrenaline is so high. For them, they are not even scared. What is fear? Fear, what do you fear? Now with the adults, our cortex is so developed, we are so alert, we are so afraid. We are like, why are you doing that? So teenagers and the youth, please understand where the adults are coming from. And let us act respectfully, honestly, and let us just be aware that it's not because they hate us, but it's because they want to protect us. And the other thing about teenagers and young youth, please do not suppress your emotions. I know I have been a mistake parent by making this with my son, he'll share later, and I wish I could turn back the time. I wish he had been able to speak to me earlier, because that's where things go hidden. You find a child has done things and you say, but why didn't you talk to me? And the child is like, but how could I talk to you? If I talked to you, I knew what you would say. So somebody here, or both of you might be saying, but you, Sonia, you don't know my father. You don't know my mother. And also the parents might be saying, you, Sonia, you don't know my child, this child. Well, guess what? Luckily, we're in Africa, and it takes a village to bring up a child. If the two of you are not able to talk to each other and you're frustrated, don't talk to each other. Seek help, because there's help available everywhere. That's why we're here at Care 360. The people that are going to speak to us afterwards are mentors. They're people that have taken care of situations like this in the past. I know I made my mistakes, and the only thing that helped me is that I was in a community, in a church, where my friends noticed, and they said, Sonia, you've been very upset of recent towards your son. What's going on? And I was so frustrated and tired, I decided, you know what, guys, help me. And because I'm a single parent, their father passed away, I felt I had to be a man and I had to be the woman. So I had to be tough, no softness, because I had these stories of single parents bringing up boys. They end up being very soft. So I made mistakes. And that's what started my journey of really understanding what's emotional intelligence, what's going on with these children. I'm still not perfect. My son the other day told me, Mommy, I don't really agree with everything you're saying. And I said, I'm happy you don't agree with everything I'm saying, because he's still trying to develop his autonomy. Now that's a whole discussion for another day. There's so much about children that we don't know, and we make these mistakes and we end up suffering later, not because we don't love our kids, but because we don't have the knowledge. I think I'm going to stop there for now. And I hope that this is some, I hoped, introduce us to emotional intelligence, the frontal cortex of the brain, the different communication skills between the adults and the kids, and also to let you know it is okay. We can get help. No situation is completely lost. Thank you so much, Miriam.
Thank you so much, Sonia. A round of applause for Sonia. You also have your videos on. Clap. Let us see that you're clapping. Thank you very much, Sonia. Wow. The child thinks using the emotional part of their brain. The frontal cortex is growing until you're 26. That sounds scary, right? It's like a lifetime of brain growth that is going on. Sonia, thank you very much. And you know, for the young people out there, the world is constantly evolving. And the only way you can thrive, survive and thrive in the world is if you evolve with the world. Just think about January to March 2020. None of us, not even in our wildest dreams, even the prophets could not predict that what has happened to the whole universe, the whole planet. A lot of change has happened. Multi-million-dollar companies have crashed. Countries and economies have crashed. But only those who have evolved have survived. You look at Zoom, we are all logged into Zoom right now. Look at the border men. The ones who have business are the ones who had a good attitude before COVID came around, and they're the ones who were honest before COVID came around. And so everyone is looking for them to carry things left and right for them. So ask yourself the question, are you going to end with change, or are you going to evolve, and are you going to thrive? We're going to move on to the next presenter, who is going to take us to the journey of the curriculum vitae, or the CV as it is popularly known. You know that the word CV came from Latin, and it means the journey of our lives. And so when you're writing your CV, it should actually be the journey of your life. And the person who is going to make the presentation is Pamela. Pamela is a human resource specialist. She's worked as head of HR in a number of institutions. She literally turns people's CVs from zero to hero. I mean, people show up with a one-pager, and by the time they've left, they also cannot believe that they're the ones who have been written about in that CV. Also, if you want to know anything about job interviews, excelling at the workplace, Pamela is like the go-to person. Let me just share the screen so you can see who Pamela is. Just a minute there. There's a bit of a lag. Okay, that's Pamela. She's also every child's favorite aunt. Every child who comes into her life becomes Pamela's favorite aunt, Pamela's favorite niece or nephew, and they all love her very much. So Pamela, you're welcome. Take us through this journey together. And don't forget to tell us about those people who say, I am a born of Uganda. Welcome, take us on the journey.
Thank you so much. You guys, first of all, Sonia, that was fantastic. It's very scary to know that I was running around with my cortex not developed and I thought I had arrived. So that's quite, it's nice to know now. And also, for me, it is good because now I know that there are people at my workplace who are not yet fully developed, because people actually come to work at 21, 22, and maybe I'll deal with them a little differently, you know, because they're not fully developed. So thank you very much. I don't know if Miriam will be sharing my slides with you. I have a few slides. I'm just here to talk to you about your CVs. I know some people are very young here and they think, I don't need a CV right now. Where do I start? Like we said, it starts from the word go. So first of all, your CV, what is it? It's that long word, curriculum vitae. However, I just want to tell you it's about you. It's you. When you're writing this, it's a me process, and this is your chance to introduce yourself, the most amazing human being, to an employee, to an employer, okay? It is you telling someone who is going to employ you how wonderful you are and why they should look beyond that first line, beyond your name. Because sometimes, you know, like Miriam stated, that if your first statement starts with, my names are, I am a born of, we put it to the left to end up in the dustbin. So we'd really enjoy, you would really like that we go beyond that first line. So your CV, first of all, is an introduction of you as an amazing human being. Why do you need your CV? because you need to be able to tell us who you are. First of all, of course, you're going to need it when looking for a job. Not all of us are like some great people here who are using their CV, are just going out there and okay, sorry, I thought you couldn't hear me. Not all of us are running our own businesses, but even if you're running your own business, you do need a CV to take it to the bank. You do need a CV if you're going to apply maybe for schooling, postgraduate, whatever. So you need a CV to be able to show yourself as a good match for a job, for a good match for school, for a good match for anything. So when you're writing your CV, you must think of yourself in the biggest way possible. These days, you young people call yourselves queens or kings. So when you're writing your CV, think that way and then write it. So let's talk about what to put in your CV. Just go quickly through what you should put in your CV. As we go through, I'll also tell you what not to put in your CV. First of all, your name should be full. You put your name. Usually I prefer if you start with your first name, and your first name, people sometimes say the Christian name or the name that is not your traditional name or your name, the name from your culture. So you write your name, you put your contact details, ensure that they're clear. I think we have the wrong screen up here. I mean, you can hear me. So what you put in your CV, your personal statement, you put your key skills, and you make sure that your education is very clear, straightforward. I will expound more on key skills and personal statement. And also you ensure that your work experience is there. So let's go to your personal statement. I feel that this is the hardest part of a CV. People end up with things like, I'm a very hardworking person who has worked very hard, and I'm a team player, and I create synergy. You know, it is just words upon words upon words. This part of your personal statement is, I think, sometimes this is where we stop as human resource, as people who receive the CVs. We look at this statement and it helps us summarize who you are. So it is very important that your personal statement is clear, that it is written in the right language, that it speaks to me immediately, and it is short. It shouldn't be beyond, I feel, beyond 3-4 sentences. So when you're writing your personal statement, ensure there are no typos, ensure there's no slang. We have that problem these days. We write everything, letter S became Z somewhere along the lines. We write wow as WAO. So we need to ensure that we use correct English, use the colonialist English as it happens. When you talk about key skills, I'm just going to take you through all this. It's just the surface, and then later on, whoever wants help, we can delve into it. So our key skills, we all have key skills, like general key skills. Sometimes we get them from the work that we have been doing, but sometimes you've not yet had a job. So there are certain skills that you can put into your CV. For example, self-belief. It is very important that you have self-belief. And I feel if you put in your CV, if I find this person believes in themselves, it's a sign that this person is able to go over and beyond who they are. We talk about communication. It is very important to have communication skills. And that, I feel, you learn from day one. Your parents spend the whole time teaching you to say mama, papa. This is communication. So as you go forward, you learn to communicate, and that is a skill you can add that you know and you've learned. Problem solving, as your frontal cortex grows, as we learn about it, you learn how to solve problems. And no matter which stage you are in your life, you have learned how to solve problems. And I feel that is a skill that we all already have. And also self-management, starting from cleaning your room, doing your chores, all that is a skill that you already have. So we shouldn't worry about those. Those are skills that we generally have as human beings. And then as we later go into the workplace, we get other skills, okay? Work experience. Many people think work experience requires that you've had 5 years working in some factory, or 5 years working as a CEO, or 2 years working as ABC. However, we can consider that working experience goes even to work shadowing. Work shadowing, at least happens at where I'm currently working. We have young people come in, we attach them to a doctor or attach them to a head of nursing, and they follow these people around. They're not doing anything, but they're learning. And this, I feel, you should include in your CV as work experience. So if you're planning to get some kind of experience, it's not just about a paying job, but it is also about learning, working for free. Internships, you're going to be, sometimes nowadays universities demand that you do this. When you're interning, these experiences that you learn from internships are work experiences. When you volunteer, even in church, you volunteer cleaning the chairs, you volunteer putting up decorations at Christmas, you volunteer, all those count as work experience. So as a young person, you don't say, I have no experience. All these things that you've done count. Charity work, these jobs you do during the holiday. By the way, anything you do for your parents, please add as work experience. When your parents send you to go shopping, I started shopping for the family when I think I was in S3. And I didn't realize that I was learning how to budget. And I could have written that in my work experience as budgeting. You understand? They give me 50,000 and I was able to shop for the whole family for the whole week. So I learned how to budget. So that should have been one of my work experiences in my first CV. So don't be shy about these experiences. Just because you learned them in your mom's canteen, or you have baking business, or you had decorations business, all that is work experience. This also leads me to say, do the work, okay? So when you do the work, you get this experience and you can carry it on into your career as you will. Miriam, can you move the next slide? Thank you. Let's go to the do nots. The things that your CV don't need, you'll be surprised. We don't need to know your age. You know, you don't need to write it there. Your date of birth is okay. Then people put date of birth 1983, and then you put your age. We're smart, we know. Okay, so you don't need to put that. We don't need to include, you don't need to include your sex. You don't need to include your religion. It is personal. I've received CVs which start with, the cover letter start with, I greet in the name of Jesus Christ, my sister. Please don't do that. It's not necessary, and it turns people off. It gives preconceived notions that are not necessary. So be professional, don't put that. We don't need your relationship status unless we ask for it during interviews. It is not a requirement, don't write it. You don't have to write that you have 2 wives, married for 5 years and have 6 kids. Not necessary. If we need it, we'll ask for it. Nationality and race. Ugandans make this mistake a lot. I am a born of Uganda. I am from the east of the tribe of Teso. It is not necessary. Those are things that we don't need. Sometimes, unfortunately, there are certain people that it creates a bias in. Don't write it there. We don't need it. It doesn't build you, it doesn't help me. So it's not a requirement. Another thing I've seen with young people is non-professional email addresses. Your Twitter handle should not be your email address. Please. Your Twitter handle, your IG address, it is not necessary. You know, prettygirl@gmail.com. No, you can have that one, but open another email address that has, you know, you can have that email address that you use only for email, please. Keep your IG address, keep your Twitter handle to yourself and all that stuff. And think about Twitter and Instagram. Let me just throw in a few things. Twitter and Instagram. These days, as human resource, we check Instagram, we check Twitter, we check these things, and even if you think you're hiding, we just do a small search and can find you. So be careful of what you put on social media. We also don't need photos unless we ask. Some jobs ask for photos, air hostesses, I don't know, whatever other people ask. But unless we ask, you don't put it in. There are people who they ask for passport photos. We did. I was doing some interviews for Qatar Airlines, and we asked for passport photos. Dear Ugandans and fellow people from around the world, I think you're listening. Please do not send a full photo. Read what is requested of you, and then respond. People were sending full photos, standing, holding Christmas trees, and I don't know, expected us to cut their faces out. So take care to read application, to read job adverts. If you're going to follow job adverts, take care to read. Make sure that you follow what they have asked for. Because when we are reading your CVs, sometimes we don't go beyond the first line just because of that first impression. I didn't ask for a photo, there's a photograph, it goes to the side. I didn't ask you for which religion you are, and that is the first thing you're presenting, to put on the side. So ensure that you present yourself properly. Another important thing, which I think is the most important, I've told you you should write about your skills, talk about your experience. Do not lie. You know, people tell lies, and you know, they think it's a small lie, but these lies grow legs and they start running and you can't catch them. So it will damage your career. Ensure that you don't lie. Do not even embellish the truth. Always tell the truth and ensure that what you have written is what is reflecting of you. And if you don't know how, we're here to help. So feel free to get in touch with me. I hope this has been helpful. I'll stop here. I feel like I've been talking forever. So feel free to get in touch and get the help that you need before you put your CV in front of anyone who could give you a job or give you money or take you to school. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you. A round of applause for Pamela. And just one other thing I'm throwing in there for myself is, please, people, write good English. Correct grammar, correct punctuations, correct spellings. Otherwise, you're going down. You see how it's written these days? And then please read a lot of books to improve your vocabulary. People are applying for supervisor jobs and they're using P3 English. Please read. All the information that is available is for us to read. Don't spend all your time on Instagram and Twitter. Get books and actually read these books. Make use of writing assistants. People send in their CVs, soft copies of their CVs, and everything is underlined green, blue, red. And you're like, did they not see it, or did they what? What generation of Microsoft Word were they using? There are some applications that are free on the internet. There's Grammarly. Your Microsoft Office comes with an assistant that can help you. And then also get a professional to guide you, especially the first time you write your CV. They'll help you to understand how you should present your CV. So, Pamela, thank you very much. One thing that I've learned is that your CV is actually like trying to go on a date with somebody. When you have a crush on someone, you hope that the first time they will have an interaction with you, they will want to go on a date with you. So if you send your CV to this place and they can't even read beyond the personal statement, then you're not going to have a date with that company that you're trying to court. So work on your personal statement. Most CVs are thrown in the dustbin at the level of personal statement. And remember, you're not a born of Gulu and you're not inshallah and greeting people in the name of yoga. Please keep that for another time. So let's give a hand of applause to Pamela. Before we move on to the next speaker.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pamela. That was really great. Before we move on to the next speaker, let's take some questions. We're going to have we have time for 1 or 2 questions. So if you have a question, please post it now for Sonia and Pamela. Give 20 seconds. If no questions come, we will move on. Okay, it looks like we don't have any question. That means either people understood nothing from what Sonia and Pamela said, or they understood everything. I'm going to say okay, someone is asking a question. And reference is very important. Pamela, that question.
So I'll answer that. Yeah, references, I think in the Ugandan setting, yes, references are important. However, there are some organizations that you only give it to them if they ask, because we know exactly where to go if we need a reference. But if you're going to give a reference, do not put your parents, do not put your sister, do not put, relatives. And before you put someone as a reference on your CV, ensure that you speak to them before you put them as a reference. Otherwise, when we call them to ask about you, because it's quite a long interaction, they get irritated and they say, who are you talking about? I don't know who that is. So references, in the Ugandan set, if you're applying it to a general, I think Ugandan setting, you can tell which company it is. Yes, you can put a reference, ensure it is not a relative, and make sure you talk to this reference before you put them as your reference in your CV.
Another question, still going to Pamela. It says one-pager CV is the way to go. Should people be writing just one page, or should they write more than that? And then another one that is linked to that, which actually answers one, is what is the difference between a resume and a CV?
Okay, I start with the resume and CV. It's the same thing. And let's go to the answer about one page. I think, yes, please do one page. As someone who has been going through CVs for a very long time, we stop at the top, and that's where we get a first impression. And I feel, the CVs that are thick, I've seen people who bind their CVs. They give you a being bound. It is too much. One page is very good. There's a way CVs are written these days that everything fits on one page. Even the font size, of course, we are going to, let's say it's font size 11, maximum 12. Ensure that it's one page. It is the way to go. These 6 pages are no longer necessary. So yes, I think there's a way to merge all your goodness into one page. It's possible.
Thanks, Mel. And very important, everybody, read the instructions. Many times the job advert tells you what they want, and people do their own things. We've seen people presenting CVs, handwritten CVs in 2020. And you're like, wait a minute. So let's read the instructions. We have a question from
that handwritten one.
So we'll take 2 more questions. We have a question from Amelia. She says, why should I not put my gender on my CV now that we have a gender crisis?
I think it's one of those things that, as someone who is recruiting, it doesn't move the needle for me. But there are some jobs that actually ask. I don't think it is not necessary. If not requested, it is not necessary. But you don't lose much. But it's one of those things that will give you space for one page also. But if some jobs ask, some jobs will say female applicants are encouraged to apply. Please go ahead and put it in. So it is not a must not put it in. It is not because I'm saying, you're picking only female or male, what? No, it's not one of those. It is just because it is one of those things that it doesn't move the needle in any way unless it is requested. It's not necessary.
Thank you, Mel. Thank you very much. And one thing studies have shown, a lot of research has shown that these specifics Pamela said we should not include, those demographics determine whether or not you'll get a job. For instance, men are most likely to be employed in managerial positions. So if you're applying to a place where you see the whole board has 1 man, senior management has 2 men, why are you going to put your gender there? Leave it out and let them take you on the merit of what you have done, and then they will discover, oops, she's a lady. So those are some of the reasons why it is not done right now. Salary expectations, do not put that on your CV, but when you go for the interview, don't start biting your nails when they ask you how much money you want to be paid and making a whole biography at that time. We need to move on. That's one thing about references. Most places of work will not call the referees that you put on your document, because most people choose people who are going to sing their praises. People are going to call the people that they know that know you and will tell them about you. Let's move on to our next presenter. Thank you very much. Let the questions keep coming. We will answer some at the end. So our next presenter is going to tell us about growth. Now at Care 360, we insist that people should have a mental growth trajectory. Young people, just because Sonia said your brain is not yet mature, doesn't mean you should be sitting there and waiting for it to mature while doing nothing. You need to grow. And so we're going to have Gyaviira, who has a lot of stories about personal growth. He's going to share with us the experiences. I will quickly share his one-page CV. Second, hold on. Just a second. So we're going to look at who Gyaviira is on a one-page CV. So there you are. So Gyaviira Kyaka Fred is a business leader, and that is him in his business suit. He's a mentor of young people. He's married to one pretty lady over there, and those are the people that make him dad. In his once upon a time young life, Gyaviira was the chairperson of the Namilyango Obis Association. So Namilyango students out there, whoop whoop to you. Gyaviira, you're welcome. Please take us on this journey of growth.
Thank you very much, Dr. Miriam, for that. Thank you, Sonia, and thank you very much, Sonia and Pamela, for what you've just taken us through. Fantastic stuff. I just want to build on what has been shared by Sonia, talking about the emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence also refers to growth. I mean, it's a process. You grow into some of the other things. And now we've just gone through the issues around the CVs. Around the CV. So I just want to share with you some personal reflections and life growth tips. Why? It's because I know that everything we want in life is uphill, and nothing is going to get us there unless we grow. It's also very true. I also know that many of us tend to get caught up in many assumptions around growth. So Miriam, would you mind sharing, just putting it in presentation mode, so you can share it?
You not see it? I'm sharing it.
Okay, just put it in presentation mode and probably move on to the next slide. Yeah? That's me out there.
I've moved to the next slide. I think it's just slow because of the internet.
Okay, you've moved to the next. So that is my family, and just really sharing with you a little bit about myself. Like I said, I've been working, I am a forester by profession who has since diverted to so many other different areas in sales, marketing, leadership, and personal growth. I'm a leadership coach and trainer certified by John Maxwell and many other people. And I currently work with an NGO called PSI as the East Africa Social Enterprise Lead. That is, but the slides haven't moved, Miriam. Huh?
I have given you control, so you should be able to move it.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Let me see if I can do that just now. Give me a second. Okay, so that's my family out there. And part of what I share the family is to show one aspect of growth, which is physical growth. Those are my children. You can see my son, Daniel, who's almost 13. He's almost my height, already taller than the mom, and all of that. But that's not the growth that I'm here to talk about. I'm talking about a different kind of growth that you are in charge of. There is physical growth. If God blesses you with life, whether you like it or not, you're going to grow. Your legs are going to get taller. You will develop hair. You will, it's so many different things are going to change. But I can see some people asking that it's put in presentation format here. I hope I'm able to do that.
In presentation mode now for those of us watching.
Okay, it is? All right, cool. I just saw a comment there. I'm not talking about that physical growth that happens automatically. I'm talking about growth that helps you build your capacity to do greater things. Some of us if you ask you, and I mean, I hear this in testimonies or, you know, when they're asking people different things, tell us, and you're still talking about things that happened long ago. This is one of the quotes from John Maxwell. He said, if you're still excited about what you did 5 years ago, you are not growing. And many of us still pride in the things that we did because you were an HP 5-10 years ago. That is still your call to fame. That is past. How have you grown in the last 6 months? How have you grown in the last 1 year? There are many assumptions we make, and we don't realize it, how later on in life, different people go ahead of us, and we're like, but how did that happen? I went to a great school. I went to a better school. I went to Namiryango. I went to Namagunga. I went to such and such a place. You know, how come this person who didn't go to the international school that I went to, how come they have the bigger job? It is because there are certain things they did. There are certain things they are very intentional about. There is a child today as we talk who is growing up in a very disadvantaged background. They don't have the kind of benefit you and I have of having this kind of internet and being on Zoom. But guess what? I can bet you 10, 20 years from now, some of those kids who are in those villages, who are having a dead year this year because maybe government pulled a dead year because of a COVID, will still be ahead of some of the kids who are going through school because of the choices they make. So I am talking about growth that you are intentional about to make you a better person. I am here to challenge you to be the best you can be in your life, but to also take personal initiative for your life. Many of us, when we talk about growth, some of you are teenagers and are still in school. So for you, growth might be easy because you're going to school. Somebody is sending you to school. But when you get out of school, how much are you growing? What book have you read in the last 6 months? Or did you say, I am tired, I have so much, now it's not the right time to do? What other course have you gone for? I am talking about that. Some of us get jobs in our workplaces and we complain, but the company is not sending me for training, it is not doing this and this. You are responsible for your growth. So I am here to remind you, my dear friends, that you are in charge of your growth, not anybody else. Not anybody else. It's not about your company. It is not about anybody. Many of us are like this. The year starts, and this is what we say. I want to be here in December. I don't know if you can see. My slide is not moving. Miriam, I don't know if you're able to move to slide 5. We say, I want, sorry?
Is that it, objectives?
No, slide 5.
Okay.
Okay, I just want to talk through them very quickly. So many of us say, I want to be here in December. Some of you are young and you're 13. You assume that 25 is very far. You assume that 30 is very far. And therefore you say, when I grow, I want to be here. Forget about the slide, Nana. I will talk through and we can always share with you the slides later. So you say when I get to my 20s, I want to be here. Guess what? Time does have wings. Before you realize it, you have gotten to your 30s and you are not where you thought you would be 10 years ago. Yet you can't go back. So dear friends, growth happens every day. The same way you plant a bean, you put a bean seed in the soil and you don't see how it rises, but for some reason it grows bigger and bigger. That is what happens to us in life with growth. Growth happens every day. Are you growing? And if you don't do anything, the year will end. That course you said you will start, you have not started it. That program you thought you would do, you have not done it. That book which you thought you'd do, you haven't. And you have been left behind because some other people somewhere are actually investing in their growth and they're growing. So dear children, how have you grown? Or are you saying I haven't grown because I didn't go to school? In life, we have about 3 different types of people. Okay, can you see?
Tell me if I'm on the right slide, Gyaviira.
Sorry?
Am I on the right slide? I'm on Jonah's belly.
No, you're ahead. You're ahead.
No shortcuts?
Black slide with 3 people.
Okay, yes.
Slide 6.
There we are.
Okay, I hope everybody can see it now. In life, there are 3 types of people. You have people who know what they want in life, and they actually go out. No, you have people who don't know what they want. I ask many people, what do you want to be? I want to be, I don't know. I'm not too sure what I want to be. They are confused. They are confused people. Then you meet some other people who you ask, what do you want to be? They know what they want to do, but they don't do it. For some reason, they never get started. They don't go for that course. They don't read that book. They don't start on that thing. And then they are frustrated. They said the people they have just brought in right now are people I trained and they want them to be my supervisors in my job. How? I am older, I have much more experience. Yes, some of us don't have experience. We just have repeated years of experience. Having 10, 15 years work experience does not mean you are growing. It could just be repeated years of the same thing. And yet the person who was brought in 2 years ago is learning new things. They're learning this new technology. They're doing different things. And guess what? They are growing. So you have people who know what they want and they do it and they are fulfilled. For us to grow, you can get on the next slide. Everything we want, like I said, in life is uphill. We all want to grow. We all want to get to that next position. Unfortunately, some of us mistaken big titles for growth. Big titles don't necessarily mean growth unless you are investing in your ability to actually be able to work and deliver. You look at Mr. Kawuma and say, I want to be a headmaster. I want to be a head teacher as well. What are you going to do for you to become a good head teacher? What is it? What are those habits you need to break today? For some of you, it might be too much sleep. You're not reading. You're not advancing in your education. You spend too much time on Instagram and things like that. Guess what? You will not be able to grow. And you will wonder why you are being overlooked in life. You have to pay, and there is something you have to give up. There is that child who is waking up tonight with a candle, putting his or her legs in cold water to read. They will get to medical school before you do, and they will overtake you. So God gives us potential. God gives us the potential. It is like a seed, but unless we invest it, you will not grow. And those others who had less will surpass you. So my dear friends, don't think you're too young. You're not too young to grow. Invest in your growth daily. Pick a few things and become very good at them. I am one of those who at one time was doing so many things. I was into leadership training and agriculture, investing in digital payments. Along the way, I realized I'm not growing. I'm doing so many things and I'm being a jack of all trades and a master of none. Less is more. Pick up your thing, that thing which would make you the best in the world. Go for it and become the best at it. Pick up some of those few things, invest in them and grow. The world will recognize you. There's somebody called Napoleon Hill said, nature cannot be tricked or cheated. She will give up to you the object of your struggles only after you have paid the full price. Some of you know what you want to be when you get to your 20s, when you get to your 30s, when you get to your 40s, but you don't do it. Again, like another person said, if you don't do it today, if you cheat today, you will know. If you cheat tomorrow, the second time, you and your God will know. If you cheat the third time, the whole world will know, because everybody will be able to see that you are not growing. And your CV will have nothing. You'll go to Pamela to try and patch up your CV and put words that are not there. Invest in your growth. Otherwise, you cannot cheat the world. My dear friends, you might be young, you might be old. When I talk about Jonah's belly, I hope we all know the story of Jonah. He tried to run away, ended up in the whale's belly. I've written Jonah's belly. Somebody said, it reminds me, sorry, it's not Jonah's belly, it's the whale's belly. Somebody says, do you really believe that story of Jonah being in the whale's belly? And said, yes, I believe it, because the Bible said. In fact, if the Bible had said the whale was in Jonah's belly, I would still have believed it. So please, this is the whale's belly. But it refers to a purpose Jonah had. Each and every one of you has a purpose. But you must grow. You must start doing certain things, and you must stop doing certain things. What is that you have to do? Pick it up. Parents who are here, encourage your children. Find out, identify their talents. What are they good at? Invest in that. Children, pick it up. You young adults, pick it up. Don't just stick into the job for the sake of growth. So let me just give you a few growth tips before I leave. One, and these are from the book, The 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth, and I encourage you to please look it up and read it. Read it during this holiday. It will help you become a better person. The law of intent, growth doesn't just happen. Start now. The law of awareness. If you knew you couldn't fail, what would you do? Some of you don't do certain things because you fear you will fail. Other people come and overtake you because they think they can, and they invest in their growth. The law of the mirror. This refers to how much value you see in yourself. Some of you are beating your children so hard. Some of your children, because you have scored very low marks, you think you can't amount to so much. So you don't invest in your growth. You think, I am not good for anything. I have received so much negative feedback. And because you don't see so much value, you don't see the value of stepping out to go and invest in yourself. If you see value in yourself, you are going to invest in yourself so that you can go. The law of consistency. Some of us have very big dreams. Fantastic. That is like building castles in the air. It is okay. That's where they belong. But now build foundations below those castles. And sometimes we ignore the bit of discipline and consistency. Every day, do something about your dream. Do something every single day. It doesn't matter how small it is. You will grow. The law of trade-offs. You must give up certain things to go up. What are those things you need to give up on? Which are hindering? Who are those friends you need to stop hanging out with? What are those habits you need to stop? Finally, my dear friends, when you are clear on what you want, the world responds with clarity. Great things happen when opportunity meets preparedness. If everybody sees Mariam, Joanne, Amelia, John, whatever your name out there is very good at this or likes this, they will always point you to that direction. They will bring you opportunities that can help you grow. But if you're not clear on what you want, the world will not respond with clarity. And unfortunately, you will stay where you are. Thank you very much, dear friends. God bless you.
Thank you very much, Gyaviira. A round of applause for you. Amazing, amazing talk. Some of the things that I've heard from you is feeling young does not make you young. Some of us on our birthdays, we remain 28 forever, but that doesn't change the fact that time is actually growing. I've also heard from you, do not wait to start doing what you know you should be doing at 40. Amazing. And then the issue of repeated experience. Just because you're old doesn't mean you should be promoted. If you're not growing, everyone is going to leave you back. And there's something I read that said, when you stop growing, you have started dying. And when I read that as a young person, it was really a strong point for me. I remember our parents used to tell us, at the end of every day, make sure you can point at least one thing that you have learned. So young people, every night before you go to bed, ask yourself, what have I learned today? How have I grown today? And if you have not, then you have not earned your bed. Get out of bed and go learn something before you go to bed. So thank you very much, Gyaviira. That was amazing. Now we're going to move on to the thing that everyone talks about these days, the money. And you know, money doesn't need an introduction. Even Jesus talked about money and wealth, not once, not twice, but several times. So now, young people, we are going to talk about money. Everyone says make money, be rich. And the question is money a means or is money the end? We're going to introduce the person who is going to speak to us about money. And the interesting thing about this gentleman who is going to speak to us about money is that he's not a banker. He is Mr. Moses Mayanja Kawuma, a head teacher at the North Green School primary section. He's a children's pastor, he's a Rotarian, and this is his support system. You can see where the hearts are pointing. His support system, they're all listening with him right now. And then you guys, Mr. Kawuma is an Arsenal fan, like for real. But anyway, let me allow him to talk about money. Maybe he has a better, a better IQ and EQ when it comes to choosing and talking about money. Mr. Kawuma, welcome. The floor is yours. Let me quickly get your slides and share them.
Thank you, Dr. Miriam. It's a pleasure to be here. And it's quite interesting when we talk about money. I'm not going to bring in any theories. I am going to share from experience. And normally we've seen people who talk about money, they want to show off that they have money. That's not what I'm going to do. I'm going to share from experience, from my childhood to where I am today and what money means to me. It's important that we understand the value of money. The Bible tells us in Ecclesiastes about money, and it talks about money being, I'll paraphrase this, is that money answereth everything. Money is the answer to everything. And I know we've had a debate about that scripture. What does it really mean? But the truth of the matter is that indeed money does answer most of the questions that we have. I mean, if you have money, you can buy whatever you can, but of course there are things that you may never buy using money. But it's important that we know the value of money. Once we understand the value of money, then we will respect it and know how to work for it, keep it, and use it well. And that for me is very, very important.
Unfortunately, the slides have not come through, so you're going to have to wing it like a head teacher.
Okay, that's fine. I will use, okay, that's okay. That's very okay. Well, stewardship of money. And I think for me, that's the topic, stewardship of money. You know, Ecclesiastes chapter 10 verses 19 says, a feast is made for laughter and wine makes merry, but money answers everything. It says money answers everything. So it really means that money is very, very important in our lives. In fact, we go to school to get education, to get jobs, to have better families. The connecting point there is money. Yes, we will get knowledge. What is knowledge for? Yes, to help people, treat people like Dr. Miriam, do all the things that we have to do. But what is the value out of what we do? Again, comes back to money. And that is something we need to think about. As stewards, what is stewardship? Being responsible, being a responsible guardian of what God has given us. What has God given us? Gifts God has given us. You have certain gifts. All of you know the story of the talents in the Bible. And that is a very good story about money. You know, taking care of our environment, our personal talents and our resources, that is all to do with the things that we have. So a responsible guardian is the key word. A guardian is a person who takes care of or protects or defends something. So are you taking good care of what you have, the gifts God has given you? Are you taking good care of money? Most of you get money. If you're a young person, if you're a child, you get money from your parents, maybe pocket money to go to school with, or you have your piggy banks, or you get gifts as money. What do you use that money for? How do you take care of that money? What do you do with that money? Those are important questions to ask ourselves. So as a guardian, do you really take good care? Do you protect? Do you defend it? Guardian, as you defend, it simply means working through. So like the story of the talents, the person who was given that talent and hid it and brought it back to the master and said, "Master, here's my talent. I've hidden it for a long time, and here I was worried about you." No. The thing is that it must multiply, and that is investment. Now, we don't want to go into all that, but you, at the back of your mind, that is working. You need to work to earn. There's nothing for free. You need to work to earn. So let's first look at the values of a good guardian. Integrity, or honesty, or truthfulness. Proverbs chapter 28 verses 20 says, "A faithful man abounds with blessings, but whoever hastens to be rich will not go unpunished." What does that tell us? You need to be honest. You need to be a person of your word. There's a lot of moral decay in our society, especially where money is. There are many people who are corrupt at the moment. And we're thinking we need to raise a generation that is honest, that is corrupt-free. And that is the love of money. You see, money isn't bad, but the love of it. The more they get, you see, the more people get money, the more they want more. And I think for me, that is not where we need to go. We need to learn to work hard. So being truthful, being honest, that's a value that you need to possess as a young person, as an adult, as a child. Another value is hardworking. Come on, guys. If you don't work, why should you eat? The Bible is very clear about this. Why should you get money which you haven't worked for? So hardworking results into achievement, results into progress. Proverbs 10 verses 4 says, "Lazy hands make for poverty, but diligent hands bring wealth." Hardworking. We're talking about money. So money cannot easily come to you. You must work for it. And I have many stories as a young person. In my early years in primary school, during holidays, I would work with my father in his shop. And when the truck brought in things to offload, I would offload things and get money. I would sweep around the shop and clean. So instead of my father hiring somebody to do that, I went there and I was paid. And I used to keep that money as a young person. And I think this goes for all of us. As adults, as parents, we need to create opportunities for our children to work and earn money. And as children, once those opportunities come through, work for it and earn money and learn to save it. So hard work. Lazy hands make for poverty. If you decide in your mind that I'm not going to work, then you remain poor. And remember, your parents' things are not yours. So forget about that. If they come through, that will be an added blessing. But you need to work for yourself. When I moved to A level, I used to make art pieces and I would go sell them I started with my relatives, my aunties, my uncles, my art pieces. I would take to them. And of course, they would buy them and they would recommend me to their friends and they would buy and I would earn money. But I would walk and go to those places and sell them my art pieces. And that is how I made money in my O levels. And I remember in my senior 4 vacation in Kampala, I remember coming to Kampala and joining my aunt's who was living here. And he took me to a friend's shop who used to sell clothes at Loom Street. And when I went there, I asked her if I could work there during my vacation. And she said, "You're most welcome." And I started to work. Very early in the morning, I would be there, you know, opening up, cleaning and arranging the things that she was going to sell for the day. And somehow we developed a relationship. But one key thing I was clear about, I needed to be honest and truthful. So that kept my relationship with her tick all throughout my studies up to university. Even when I went back after year 6, I went back and worked with her. She actually called me. She would call me and say, "Moses, come and work with me." So I kept working with her. And I remember during Christmas time or during the peak times, peak seasons, so that is Christmas and Easter, the week before Christmas, she would say, "Moses, these are the, this is the dead stock, you know, clothes that have stayed in the shop for such a long time." And I would spread them out on the veranda of the shop and I would start singing just like those men in Owino. And at that time, that was actually during senior 6 vacation and when I went to university. So I was never ashamed of what I was doing. I was never ashamed of earning a living. And that money helped me pay for my accommodation when I was at university. My parents paid school fees, but I paid my way out in terms of accommodation and feeding. So I was very truthful. I was very honest working with this lady. And up to today, I remain a living testimony for her because she testifies and says, when I worked with Moses at this time, he never took anything from the shop. And that for me was very important. Hardworking, honesty. The other value is being proactive. Being proactive simply means constantly moving forward, looking into the future, making things happen. You actively engage. You are not passively observing. Being proactive is a way of thinking and acting ahead, using what is available. So, and that is how you earn money. People trust you because you were able to do things very quickly without being asked. And those are people who are employable, people who are proactive. Not every time, "Oh, I don't have this. Oh, I don't have this." I've had people say, "Oh, I don't have capital." And they can't start anything. But God has given you a brain. Use it. And that is, for me, something everybody should possess. You do not wait for things to happen. You make things happen. Start small. And that, for me, takes me to another value. Self-worth. Believing in yourself. That makes you understand that whatever I make, I can make this money. I mean, my children are here. I will share with you a story. But I've talked with them how to deal with money. In terms of saving, in terms of investing, what do you look at as a young child, as a young adult? So be valuable, value yourself. Self-worth is important. But also one thing that Javi or Mr. Kyaka mentioned is keep yourself abreast with what is happening, reading a lot more. And I will term this as a lifelong learner, pursuit of knowledge for either personal or professional reasons. For me, that is very key. So if you want to make money, these are things that you must possess. Those are things that you must possess as a person. It doesn't matter what age you are. It doesn't matter. Now, unfortunately, I couldn't share, or Miriam has failed to download the slides. But I wanted to show you a picture I took of my children last December. We were counting money. We had to break our piggy banks the day before Christmas. And the idea was that children learn how to save at a very early age. So whatever you get, can you save? If you get 1,000 shillings, can you pay the tithe? That is very key. Tithe, you need to learn how to give tithe. Parents, please encourage your children to give tithe. It is biblical, it's a principle. So once you get 1,000, you give a tithe. And if you want, you give an offertory and the rest you save. And so this picture actually does illustrate the counting of money, how you handle money. And we were looking at, I had told them that whatever you save, I will double. And that was our agreement from the word go. And that encouraged them to save. But it also taught them some things. It told them to live within their means, being contentment. So every money they get wasn't meant to go buy things they love. They had to think, do I really need this? Do I have to buy this? Sometimes we buy things that we don't need and they become clutter. Shoes, you want all sorts of shoes. Do you really need them? Are you sure you need them? Or you want to be the same as, Matthew in the neighborhood, or the same as Jack in the neighborhood. They have this lovely t-shirts or hoodies. I want one of them. Do you really need it? You could save that money to do something better. So living within your means is important. Being content with what you have is very, very key. Number 2 is learning how to budget. And budgeting helps you live within your means. It simply means you cannot just go buy things because you have the money. No. So it's being intentional. When you budget, you're being intentional of the things you need for that week, for that month, for that year, so that you remove what you need and you save the rest. In fact, that ties in with frugal living. Frugal living simply means spending smart and reducing on wastage. It's about money. And that is what I used to do at the time I was in secondary and at university. I remember my friends going to buy new shirts and they would come to school with new vase and, nice. And I thought, okay, but guess what? They thought I was also in the same league. But actually for me, I wasn't buying new stuff. I had my guy in a window market and he would get me first class at a very cheap price. Where they bought 100,000, I would buy 20,000. And when we got to school, sometimes I would be smarter than them. I'm not bragging, but I'm just telling you. Frugal living. Can you spend smart and reduce on wastage? Now, of course, people have different values and principles and say, why would you buy from Owino? Or why would you have a guy from Owino? Yes, we have different values. But of course, you know how much you have. You know how to spend it. And that is frugal living. When I was in the UK, when you went into the supermarket, you would look at the price tags and say, this is the same as the other one, but this one is slightly cheaper. So you go for the budget one. Frugal living. Living within your means and budgeting would help you. I like Proverbs. It says in chapter 13, verses 11, dishonest money dwindles away, but whoever gathers money little by little makes it grow. Little by little makes it grow. Let me tell you, there are people who earn millions of money, but when you go to ask them, they are always broke. Always broke. And there are people who earn very little and they are doing very well. Their families are happy, their children are eating well. They know how to plan for their money. But this starts at a very young age. And I've always asked myself, why do people spend the way they spend and at the end of the day, they are still broke? So learn to budget, learn to spend smart, learn to live within your means. You know, there's a quotation that says that rich people stay rich by living like broke people, and broke people stay broke by living like rich people. And that is so true. Do you know how many children want to own an S8? Oh, no, it's not S8. I think it's S10 or something like that, or iPhone 7. What do we? iPhone 11 Pro. My son is telling me iPhone 11 Pro, and that's everybody wants that, to have that one. Come on, you have no job and you want an iPhone 11 Pro? Come on, why would you live such a life? It's a lie. And let me tell you what, you will live that life forever. So it simply means you'll keep lying. And if you don't get an iPhone 11 Pro this time, what are you going to do? You're going to steal. And that's why you see young people, once they get into jobs, they get money and they want to drive a car, but they have no house to park the car. So I don't know whether they are going to sleep in the car. Those are things that we need to think about. It is not wrong to have a car, but you must have a car at the right time. You cannot own an S8 or iPhone 11 Pro when you even don't have a shirt to wear that can take you to an interview. You can wear to an interview. Those are things that we think about. Living within your means. So you don't live like the rich. You live within your means. Keeping your needs simple. Enjoy small pleasures. Real value lies in what things mean to you, not in their cost or how they are valued by others. And that is what we are facing in this generation. We want the costly things. We want the most expensive things. It simply means we are not valuing the money, and therefore it is not worthy having. So we get and we spend. We cannot save. But I've learned one thing, especially for the young people, the young adults that are here. If you save, and if you're working, for those that are working, if you save, let's say 3 million, and you buy a plot of land somewhere far and leave it there for 5 years, that piece of land could actually appreciate in value, and it would come to about 20 million. I have done this. And I always tell young people that I'm close to that these are things that you need to do when you get a job, when you have money that you have saved. Because that is how you build wealth. Wealth is very important, but it is built bit by bit, just like we had from Proverbs. It is built bit by bit. It is not a one-day thing. Whoever gathers money little by little makes it grow. So this is something that you have to do, not me, not your parents, not your guardians. 360 can only bring a platform where you can discuss these issues. But at the end of the day, it's your decision to either say, I am going to save or I am going to eat it all. I thank you very much, and I will wait for questions. Thank you, Mary.
Moses, amazing, amazing. Gather little by little. Those who are about my age, remember the song? I said, God made man, man made money, money which man made man mad. Mr. Money, remember that song? You know, the parents who are listening in here, and you have children who are able-bodied, and they're eating in your home and going to bed every day and not doing anything at home. He or she who does not work should not eat. Let's make sure our children are working at home. Are they sweeping the house? Are they cooking? A 9-year-old child is able to make breakfast for the family. So let's stop feeding our children who are not doing anything. Children must work if they want to eat. The other thing for the young people out there, these days we find people refusing job offers because the salary being given is less than the pocket money that they're receiving. If you're not earning your own money and you're flossing on your parents' money, you are in trouble. Children, money has value, but money, you have to earn the money yourself. And then if you have money and you have not mastered your money, then your money has mastered you. There's a story about a rich man who was really wealthy, and then when the time came for him to die, he asked God to allow him to take his gold to heaven. And so when he got to heaven, and Jesus asked him, why have you come with pavements? In other words, money is to be used on earth, and life and our relationship with God is more important than money. So let's remember, money is given to us. Let's be good stewards of money. We are now going to move to the most interesting part of this, this evening, and we're coming to an end. The next two participants, the people who are going to present to us, are actually our quality assurance team. They're young people, young like those of you who are listening in today. And these people have shown us that even while their brains are still growing, they can do a lot. Let me go to the picture of one of them. The first one who is going to speak to us tonight is called Nathan. Nathan is only 17 years old. He's a freshman in university. He was recently, I don't know what they call that thing, Nathan, you tell us. And he's now in a professional under 18s football club. His mother, Sonia, is the one who told us to talk to us about the way children think. But the thing about Nathan is that he supports Manchester United. So Nathan, please. We need to rethink that. But welcome, Nathan. We are all ready to hear from you.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much. I don't think I'm going to be able to speak for long because I have football training in a bit, but I'm just going to speak about what everyone said tonight and just go over it. So, yeah, I'm 17 and I'm not in university. I'm in college. I'm in my final 2 years of high school before university. But right now I'm applying to unis all over the place, and I'm writing my personal statement as we had some advice on how to do. But to get here, to get to school in England, I had to write a personal statement as well. So just to prove that, you know, the people who are older than us, they're not just saying these things to annoy us. They actually have value and are useful towards us. So with me, when I wrote my personal statement, because I wrote about everything that happened in my life since I was a young boy, losing my father and like just experiencing life with the lens that I did, just presenting myself as a desirable candidate and not really overselling myself. But when I came here, lots of teachers wanted to get to know me because of the quality of my personal statement. So you should always be thinking about experiences in your life that you can be putting into your personal statement, whether it's I just realized I wasn't speaking with video. You should always be thinking about what you can put in your personal statement, even if it's small things that you do at home, babysitting, cleaning, and yeah. So I'll start with some of the stuff my mom said about emotional intelligence and how important it is to have that relationship with either your parents or someone in your life who you feel like you can speak to about how you feel. Because growing up, I feel like from the majority of my life until I was maybe 13 or 14, I had so many mixed emotions and I just couldn't explain or understand why I was feeling these ways. And my mom wasn't really, I didn't feel like I could speak to my mom because I was scared of the way she would react. So I would often just keep it to myself and just get on with my life. But at one point I realized there's no point doing that. I have to talk to someone about it. So I just came to my mom when I was around 14 and I said, I feel like I want to have a better relationship with you. And we realized the problems we had in our relationship, which was mainly communication. But we got over it, and I tell my mom everything today. I'm not scared of anything. I'm not scared of how she'll react. And I know it's not the case for everyone, and a lot of people feel like their parents won't be accepting of everything that they say. But as my mom said, someone will. You just should never feel like you have to keep these things to yourself, or you feel like you're alone, or you have to push it in, because that's how you end up looking for different coping mechanisms. Instead of talking, you may pick up drugs, or you may hang up with the wrong people. And when you're 20, 30, and you look at your life and where you are, you wonder where you went wrong. And it all comes from just keeping quiet and keeping everything down. So my advice is seek relationships with your parents as children, and parents should also seek relationships with their children. They shouldn't push necessarily, but they should both be willing to collaborate. And if that isn't possible, then it takes a village to raise a child. So find someone you can speak to. I'm going to talk about personal statements next, and money as well, because I don't work right now, but my mom gives me some pocket money every month. And it was hard to be financially independent at first when I came to the UK, because I was suddenly, there's so many shiny things to buy. I can suddenly go out and buy something if I want to, but then at the end of the month, when I don't have any more money left and I want something really bad, I realize all the stupid stuff I bought that I could have saved my money on. So it's taken me a while to become more financially intelligent, and I still am, because I'm still very impulsive, but I feel like I'll get there. So not everyone's perfect. And yeah, I applied for a couple jobs before COVID, and I had an interview and I got the job, but coronavirus meant that the job didn't exist anymore. So I'm currently writing personal statements and CVs to apply for more jobs after all this is over, because I would like to be more financially responsible with my money, and I feel like I'd appreciate it more if I realize that this is my money, it's come from my hard work, and then I won't spend it on useless things. But yeah, I guess the main thing that I would advise parents and kids to take from what I'm saying is you shouldn't feel like you're enemies with each other, even if it feels like you're always conflicting, or the parents don't understand the kids, or the kids don't understand the parents, and the kids feel like they need to rebel. That's not how it's supposed to be. Whatever your parents tell you, even if it's rules that you don't agree with, like I don't agree with a lot of the stuff my mom says, and I tell her, but it's all coming from a place of love, and she has my best interest at heart always, and she's not trying to do anything to deliberately annoy me or make me mad. Just because, and I can agree with, I don't make the best decisions all the time because I'm still developing, and my frontal cortex still has a long way to grow. So sometimes you just have to let go of your egos as teenagers and just swallow the bitter medicine and allow what your parents are telling you, because they know, they're teenagers themselves once. So yeah, that's really all I can say from what we've learned today. Thank you.
Nathan, thank you very much. Nathan, a round of applause, everyone, for Nathan. I can see you on your video. If you're not clapping, I'll throw you out of the meeting. Nathan, thank you for being really vulnerable with us. I mean, this means a lot to us, the grown-ups, the parents, and even to the younger people. I think one thing that I'm trying to learn as a parent is to drop the barriers, you know? We forget that children are young. They don't have the years of experience that we have. And so half the time we are shouting at them, we are threatening, we are angry, and they're just being children, they're trying to learn. So parents out there, let's drop the barriers. Let's allow the children to be children, and let's direct them without beating them up. And then the other thing is for children. Sometimes we get crazy, you know, life is stressful. We forget that we were once young. Please cut us some slack as well. Remind us when we are being too hard on you, but that will not stop us from being hard, sorry. And remember that we have your best interest. Like Nathan said, he knows that even when his mom is hard, he doesn't agree with her all the time. He knows that she's coming from a point of having his best interest at heart. So children, let's make this a two-way path. Parents, let's learn to listen so children can speak. And children, please listen to us, because we are trying to make these decisions to lead you to a better place. We don't want to be blamed in the future for not having done the right thing. Nathan, we know you have to leave. Thank you very much. Enjoy your football practice, and we'll keep in touch. Bye. Well, let's say bye to Nathan. Okay, so Nathan has stepped out. The girls are saying there's a gender issue going on in the world right now. Where is the young lady going to speak to us today? And we do have a young lady going to speak to us today. I'll share with you her one-page CV in a second. So this young lady that is going to speak before you is amazing. She's the Care 360 Pioneer Mentorship Group. So her name is Joanita Anena. She's just 22 years old, amazing young lady. Joan graduated last year in November, business administration. She got an upper second honors. No one in the university in her year got a first class. So this was the top degree in her class. But the thing with Joan is that when she was in the university, she wasn't reading all the time. Joan had time to read, but while she was in university, Joan was a model. She's still a model. Joan opened a non-profit foundation called the Rebecca Foundation that is helping disadvantaged young children with scholarly materials. Joan is a volunteer, and she was a volunteer in the university with Uganda Unites, and right now she's a team leader communication. And then she is a YouTuber. She has her own YouTube site where she talks about fashion, about beauty. I mean, Joan has done everything. About a week ago, she went through our CV panel beating process to let all this shine in her CV. She's amazing, a young lady. Her brain is still developing, like Sonia said, but she's achieved more than a lot of us have achieved in our XX years of life. So John, you're welcome. Just share your story with us.
Hi.
Thank you, John.
Thank you for introducing me. Glad to be talking to you guys today. So today I'm going to be talking about life after university, during university, and I think life as a young adult. Personally, I think in my opinion, a lot of things that happen, we are not prepared for. Let me give an example of university is something I feel like a lot of young adults aren't prepared for, me personally as well. Let's say you come from boarding school where you've known everyone, and then you're thrown into this melting pot of different characteristics, different people, and sometimes you're put in a room with someone you've never met, and you have to sort of live with this person for 4 months. These are things that people as young adults aren't prepared for. And so the first thing I would talk about is the friends and the people that you meet and interact with. These are very important. Like the first people that you meet at campus, these are people who influence, in my opinion, your life, I think for forever, because they are the friends that you go to when you have problems. They are the friends that will encourage you when you're down. And so when you land in the wrong group of people, like Nathan was talking about getting into drugs and alcohol and all those things, it starts like this, little baby steps, like, interacting with the wrong people. You wake up at 25 and say what went wrong, and yet it started with that choice to hang out with these people. So first, I'd say make good friends. These friends will encourage you, will lift you up when you're down. I would attest and say a lot of young people, we rely on our friends. Not that our parents aren't there, but sometimes, you just want that one person to talk to and just relay everything to. And most of the time, we actually take the advice of our friends and take what they're saying. So it's important to surround yourself with people who are going to lift you up. And another thing I'll talk about is financial literacy. A couple of speakers have talked about this. I think in my first year, second semester, I started a business selling hot dogs and submarines because I realized in my university they weren't there and people wanted them. And so one thing is seeing opportunities and grabbing opportunities and just being able to, to make money off little things like this. And also another thing that's important is saving. You don't realize that 20,000 a month is not 20,000 in 4 months. It's very important to save. Currently, I have a savings group with a couple of friends where we save every month. And this actually pushes you to work because you know at the end of the month, you have a particular amount of money that you have to give in. So it pushes you to sort of work towards like your goal. Another thing I'd say is have like goals in life. I think sometimes as young people, we don't think about the future, which is a mistake. You should have goals planned. Like let's say this month I want to do this, I want to accomplish that, and it will actually drive you to where you want to be. Let's say in a year I want to have done this, that, and that. It will definitely push you and drive you even when things get hard. And another thing I'd say is, like Sonia talked about emotional intelligence, how our brains aren't developed yet, but as young people we go through a lot of things actually. Some of us lose our loved ones young, or lose a situation where you lose a parent and you have exams next week. I know a couple of people who have lost a loved one and had exams next week and done these exams and actually passed. They just gathered courage to go through such trying times. We go through loss of friends, relationship losses, making new friends, all these different emotions up and down, and you have to deal with these things. And sometimes it's hard, because we are still growing, we're still developing, and sometimes you might feel like you don't have people to go to or to rely on, but I'd say always have that person that you go to. Always have, if it's a parent, it's a friend, a relative, someone that you call and talk to, because sometimes when you keep things in, they keep on piling and they seem like they're weighing you down. But just find a way to relieve these emotions that you're feeling. Another thing that helps me a lot is I realize that life isn't like a straight line. I think my mom says this to me a lot. She says, when something happens, what is the solution to the problem? Always look for a solution. Yes, it's good to cry, it's good to be down, but at the end of the day, when you get up, you need to get up and say, what do I do next to fix this problem? I remember when I was at campus and I was walking, and then a couple of kids stopped me and they had no shoes, and they stopped me and asked me to help them with their homework. It was SST, social studies, in primary school, and they had completely no idea of the homework that I'd given them. And so I was like, okay, get a pen, and so let's write this down. So some answers I didn't know, and I googled them, and I thought to myself, oh my god, I actually have this tool, I can Google something when I don't know, but these kids have nothing. And so I just went randomly to the school and asked the headmaster, how much is their tuition? And they told me it's 20,000 shillings. And I was like, I actually have 20,000 shillings. And so I came up with this idea to help children who don't have fees and who want to learn but don't have the means to go to school. And so I asked my mom about it, and she supports me in sending underprivileged kids to school. So the foundation is called the Rebecca Foundation, which is named after my mom. And what we do is we send children to school, we pay for their school fees, we give them scholastic material that they need to go to school. And to me, that was solving a big problem in our society today, because I feel like a lot of children don't have opportunity, which drives me to my second point. To my other point is always, look for things to solve. Don't always aim to receive. Look towards giving. And when you give, you actually receive, a lot more. And I feel like in our society, sometimes we always expect, and don't, give back to other people. And also, another thing I'd like to get to is learning to be creative as a young adult. A lot of times, even today, jobs aren't really available and plenty, and so you have to learn how to be creative. For example, if you have amazing baking skills, you could actually start baking cakes and making money, whether it's in vacation or you're on holiday. So these are simple things that you could do, and you never know where this will actually lead you. I have a love for fashion, as Miriam said, and so I actually have my own fashion business on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook. So I sell clothing online, and this is how I was making my money before I got into employment. And so I think it's being flexible. And I remember when I went for my job interview for my current job with CIPLA Quality Chemicals, so I currently work as a human resources assistant. The human resources manager had told me the day before that I'd come in for the interview and start work the next day. So that's what I went thinking. But when I reached there, after the interview, he's like, okay, are you ready to start immediately? We have this, that, and that to do. And I was like, wait, what? I thought in my brain, I was like, I thought we were starting the next day. But like, I just said, yes, I'm ready. Even if inside I was like dying and shaking and I was like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. But I just said, I'm ready. And I went and actually worked that day. And yet I was not prepared at all to work. And so being flexible is something that I would advise. And also, I think coming to mistakes, personally, one mistake that I think I made in my young life is trusting and thinking that everyone in life is good and out for your success. A lot of people actually take advantage of like young people, and so you have to watch out for a lot of things that seem too good to be true. These are some things that like target young people, because you're looking out for these opportunities. You want them so bad that you ignore. Sometimes we have voices in our heads that tell us this is too good to be true, investigate, but always be careful and look out for yourself. And when something doesn't seem right, ask for help and show someone and say, oh, I saw this, but this doesn't seem right. Yes. Also leave a small mark, even if it's just doing something little. When you're, let's say, doing a little gig, do your best. You never know, that person may wake up and say, oh my God, I worked with this person and they're amazing, let me recommend you to someone else. You just never know where things might lead. So always leave a good reputation everywhere that you go. And also another thing is, I think social media, a lot of us young people base our achievements and our excellence on the things that we see on social media, and someone posting, oh, I bought my first car at 19, and you're like, oh my God, what am I doing at 19? Like, detach yourself from social media. A lot of things on social media aren't reality, and don't take everything as you see. Yes, I think I'm going to stop there for now, but young people, believe in yourselves, have a good support system, and just be amazing. Thank you.
Wow. Joan, that is super amazing. You've opened our eyes as parents to a lot of things that we don't know about young people. This is super amazing. When I was 22, I was still in the university thinking about chips and chaps from chicken tonight, new people. And people are changing the world here. We are super impressed, John. I think one thing that I want to tell parents out there is that if you have a young person in your life, someone in their teens or someone like John in their 20s, who you have influence over, this is the person you should be mentoring. Because guess what? Your children are going to listen to this person more than they listen to you. Because you're not cool for your children. You're absolutely not cool. You're like ancient. My kids think I was born in 1930. So if you don't mentor these people, these young people around you, those are the people your children are going to listen to. And if the person went down went down the wrong path, your children are going to end up down this path. I just want to share an experience that we had that compared the mentees of Care 360 and other people. Some time ago, there was a gig that was available. Someone said they needed some people to do some work over a week. And so I recommended to this person a number of people, some that were our mentees and others that I just knew. And the first interview she gave them was, make sure that you call me by, I think it was 5 p.m. that day. And all those who did not call by 5 p.m. that day failed the interview. So that was it. So be ready to take control of your life. And work for money. I remember when I was in S6 back, I was a teacher earning very little money. So I decided to become a housemaid at home. I told my parents, we don't have a housemaid, we need a housemaid, I'm available. And I would clean from the top to the bottom and get my 5,000 shillings a week. And for me, that was heaven. So let's not wait for the world to change for us to move and leave a mark where we are. We've run out of time. We thought we'd have a Q&A session. If there are some burning questions, please send them on the chat and I'll ask the panelists to answer. Let's wait for 30 seconds as people send their questions. There's a question here that has come in from a gentleman called Derek. And he says, in my mind, the biggest challenge for young people and adults alike is having a life that is balanced between being productive and having time for yourself, family, and friends. How can someone overcome that? In other words, the work-life balance. Can we have a grown-up answer this? Sonia?
Hi, I was smiling at that question because we would need 16 hours to answer that question and probably 5 years, because even as I speak, we are still learning it. But I think what I would advise on a surface level is that find activities that nourish you and find activities that deplete you. Now, what do I mean? Some people's jobs deplete them and some people's jobs nourish them. So every single day, do something that nourishes you. The whole work-life balance comes about because we're not doing enough activities that are nourishing us. So we feel empty, tired, and depleted. But if we're able to balance the chemicals of nourishment and depletion, then we have a better chance of having a balanced life. I can't start telling you manage finances, manage this, because all those activities depend. For instance, I like exercise. It's very nourishing. So every day I make sure I do some sort of exercise, yoga, walking, whatever it is. Then the rest of the time, if I have to go and do a depleting exercise, I still have so much good hormonal highs that I'll go and do it. And at the end of the day, I don't feel depleted. I don't want to take too much time, but if you need more insight, I'm sure Miriam can give you my contacts and we can talk further. But the general thing is nourishing and depleting exercises or activities. Balance it out and make sure every day you do something nourishing to rejuvenate and make you feel good. Thanks.
The next question, I believe this goes to Pamela. Someone says, what if you struggle with reading? How else can you improve your vocabulary and increase your knowledge? Pamela?
So someone wants to improve their vocabulary, but they don't love reading. Is that the question?
Yes.
Okay. First, I think even if you don't like reading, I feel like you should try to read at least, because some people, reading comes naturally. They can sit there for hours and read. Do at least 10 minutes a day. At least 10 minutes a day, read something educative. It will help you with your vocabulary. If you don't like reading, try writing. Just write, keep writing. Or I've seen my niece reading a dictionary. That was weird, but apparently she picks up a few words. But I feel like even if you don't like reading, make yourself read, because without reading, you're going to hit so many walls, because I feel like everything in this world is geared towards someone who is willing to continuously build their mind. And when you build your mind, it doesn't just build your vocabulary, it also builds you as a person. So even if you find it hard, do at least 10 minutes a day. It doesn't have to be 2 hours like some people, at least 10 minutes every single day. And that will actually help you to grow and enjoy reading more from my point of view.
Thank you. And someone says, what if you struggle reading because you have something like dyslexia? I'll put on my medical cap to answer that question. So dyslexia is a reality.
Please.
There are people with dyslexia. Dyslexia means you're not able to read because when you look at words, your brain sees something else. You look at letter B in your brain, it's seeing letter Q. It is a real medical condition. If you think you have dyslexia, parents, if your child for some reason is not able to read, not because they are playing PlayStation 4. If your child is having trouble reading, or as a grown-up you're struggling with reading, please seek help. You can get in touch with us and we can connect you to specialists who can assess you and tell you whether you actually have dyslexia or you just need to pull up your socks and start reading from Peter and Jane. Okay, we'll have just one more question and then answer one more question and then we need to close. Someone has asked like 1,000,000 times, is it okay to use slang when I'm talking to my friends? Mr. Kawuma, can you answer that question?
I knew it was coming to me and my boys are laughing here. Well, first of all, about dyslexia and dyslexic people, those who cannot read. Two bits of advice. One is that there are books that are meant for dyslexic people. You see, the people who, or children who are dyslexic, it simply means they cannot read the black on white, but they can read black on off-white. So these days, when authors or publishers come out with books, it is not black on white, it's black on off-white or cream. That is good for dyslexic people. Number two, there are also audiobooks. Okay, you can use audiobooks. Those are now available online. So let's put away the excuse of I cannot read. One thing I struggled with, and I'm sharing this as a personal experience, is reading, because I wasn't introduced to reading at a young age. I've had to pick it up later on in life, but I'm still struggling. I read, but not as much as I would have loved to. But what I do, I read in small bits for me to be able to understand, okay? And I do encourage people who struggle with reading to read in small bits, okay? And also look out for audio books. And there are also audio visual books. So as you're listening, you're actually looking at the text. There are audio visual Bibles now, free of charge, online. I'm not telling you to go and buy. These are available. So get off social media and Google books to read or books to listen to, okay? Can you use slangs with your friends? Well, I would say yes and no. Yes, because it's trendy, it's nice, it is good to fit in. But some children actually decide, are very intentional, not to use slangs. The problem is here, that if you get used to using slangs, when you get into an official environment, you will end up using slangs. I have people who come into my office and as they are talking, they use the word kati, you see, and I'm wondering, what is kati? What does kati mean? You know, they're using Luganda in English. Same thing with slang. So be very careful when you're using slangs. Otherwise, you may get blamed, okay? In terms of using what you're using. So it's better to remain official throughout your conversations, okay? Otherwise, you will end up losing opportunities just because you could not express yourself, okay, in an official way because you have been used to slangs. I can see even when you do communication using text on WhatsApp, and you know, I interview people for teaching jobs, and they send in application through email. And my dear, they cannot even compose an email using an official, grammatically correct, punctuated sentence. It's not there, okay? And the moment you do that, I just delete and move on to the next person. So be careful when you're using slangs. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kawuma. Take home message, children, the world does not have time for you if you don't have time for yourself. Remember that we are 40, how many people on earth? 40 billion people on earth. I mean, 6 billion and about 6 to 8 billion people on earth. If you're going to write in slang or the short form that people use now, no one is going to correct your writing for you. So start working on it now. There is no excuse to not read, to not learn. Parents, most of us send our children to read, but we don't read. We don't even read newspapers. There are parents whose children have never seen them open anything readable. Let's lead by example. There should be rules at home. Read a book a week. They will complain. I tell my children, I want a book review every day, and they're like, but we're on holiday. I'm like, it doesn't matter, you're not on holiday in my house, so you're going to do your book reviews every week. So let's create a reading culture, a reading environment at home. Put off the TV sometimes. Get everyone off the internet. Let people read. I know we've run out of time, but we plan to continue to keep this going. We're going to be having short table talks, about 10 minutes, that we'll put online on topical issues that people want to discuss. And then we're also going to have a similar session, and it's going to be focused on parents, parenting, and the things people struggle with. So in conclusion, I'm going to ask each of our panelists, the ones who are intermediately young, what would you tell your teenage self or your young adult self today?
I assume I'm one of those.
You're one of those. Sonia, start.
I'll tell my young self, the teenage self, not to be afraid, not to be afraid to express yourself. And I like what we learned about the financial part, because I started teaching kids who are younger than myself at 16, but because I was afraid, I didn't push it. So I would have told myself, don't be afraid, go for it. You will fall down, but that's the only way you're going to learn. And talk, 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 talk. Don't keep quiet.
Amen.
Thanks.
Thank you, Sonia. Next, we'll have Pamela. Talk to your young self.
I wonder how young we go. Last year? I think it's the same thing with Sonia. Do not be afraid. I think fear is the thing that kept me back from a lot of things. And don't be afraid to start a business. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to talk to your parents. Don't be afraid to apply for that job. Don't be afraid to ask for that raise. Don't be afraid. There's so many things that fear just keeps you in one tunnel. So I'll tell my younger self, even last year self, just don't be afraid. What's the worst that could happen? I'm not bungee jumping.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Wow. Thank you, Pamela. Thank you, Pamela. When she mentioned ask for that raise, advocate for yourself. For the ladies who are listening in, there's a book you must read, especially the ones who, for the ladies. It says, Why Nice Girls Do Not Get the Corner Office. The corner office is where the bosses sit. So please get that book, read that book. We'll have a book club to discuss it. Now I go to Fred. Talk to that 17-year-old, 22-year-old Fred.
Well, before I speak to that 22-year-old Fred, I mean, I'm 22, so I don't know why I talk to that 22-year-old. No, I just want to speak back to, just make a comment to Derek's question as well about the challenge for young people and adults balancing between, time for yourself, family, and he asked how do you overcome that. My take to that would be, step back and think about, somebody said, if it won't matter in 5 years, then don't do it. If it won't matter in 10 years. Step back and ask yourself, what would be the benefit if I invest in this family of mine in 10 years' time? What will it look like if I invest time in these friendships? What will I benefit? What will it look like if I invest, say, for example, in a TV or in video games? If you ask yourself that question, you might find yourself inevitably dropping certain things because you see the great value investing in those, and that helps you prioritize. So if it won't matter in 5 years' time, in 10 years' time, please drop it. Let me speak to the younger self now, the younger Gyaviira. It partly comes out, it's pretty similar to what Sonia and Pamela have said. On one hand, I feel like I stopped going back or taking up certain challenges, even when everybody saw my great potential in some of those things. I'd say feed your faith and not your fear. Okay? So feed your faith and not your fear. Purpose, go ahead, go for it. Second, I would tell the younger self, growth happens every day. If a day passes and you haven't invested in yourself, believe me, you have lost an opportunity and somebody has overtaken you. So be intentional about your growth and grow every day. And finally, I'll tell myself related to that, because sometimes I had big dreams and they remained in big dreams. Motivation, and some of you are going to leave this place very motivated. Motivation gets you going, but discipline keeps you growing. Be disciplined, work on something every single day. Motivation is not good enough.
Wow.
Start every day. Thank you very much.
Amazing. Discipline keeps you going. That's what is going to keep you there. So, Mr. Moses Kawuma, head teacher, talk to that young man that you were a few years ago. I'm not going to say many. A few years ago.
I think it's important to explore. It's important to explore, just like the rest of the panelists have said. Risk. If you do not take a risk, then you might not know what is ahead of you. And sometimes you need to take that risk at a very young age. If I had done the things I'd wanted to do, I would probably be more than what I am today if I had invested then. Because I wasted a lot of time, a lot of resources. If I had explored the opportunities that were available at that time, I would be way better than where I am today. I am not complaining, but I'm talking to my young self. I think it's important to explore, to assert yourself, and talk about the things that you believe in, and convince people around you that you can do it, and go ahead and do these things. Try out different things. I didn't know I would be a teacher. I didn't know I would be a head teacher up until I had finished university. I did marketing at university. I graduated with a second upper in commerce. But here I am. I am a teacher. It came way later on in life. I could have discovered my calling while I was still young. I could have gone out and explored more, worked with young people, you know, and then I would have realized where I need to be. That's why I'm saying, probably I wasted a lot of time and a lot of resources. So explore, do things that you have to do, read widely, travel widely if you can, learn, develop yourself. Because once you do that at a very early age, when you get where we are now, you are more empowered and knowledgeable. So take that risk, do the things that you have to do at that age. Do not waste time. Because there's a lot of time thinking I'll do things when I'm 30, when I'm 40. You may get to 40 and there's no opportunity to do that. The opportunity is now. The living is in now. So while you enjoy the life you enjoy, be focused and be intentional on what you want to achieve. And guess what? You will achieve it. Being intentional, what is it? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Moses. Being intentional. Gyaviira has one quick word before we move on to our last person, John.
Thank you. Well, you've all heard, don't push to tomorrow what you can do today. That has been one of the key messages we've all been talking about. You might be an adult here, you might be a parent, and you feel like, oh my God, I have so messed up, or I missed on so many opportunities. I should have done my CVs this way. I haven't invested in my growth. I haven't done ABCD. I just wanted to leave you with a word from the Chinese who say, the best time to plant a tree was 1,000 years ago. The next best time is now. It is never too late to do the right thing. Start where you are and get going. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Fred. And now we come to our last person, John. And John, since you're still young, there's no young person to talk to. Now talk to the adults. What do you want us to hear from the young people? John,
I'd say, first of all, don't take us young people for granted. Some of my experience is adults don't give us a chance sometimes. There's, for example, from experience, there's a kind of entrepreneurship workshop that I'd gone for, and I was sitting next to this lady, and the session was going on, and she asked me to get for her tea, like sending me for tea, like to go and get me tea. And I looked at her and was like, but we are both like, go get you tea, I'm missing out. So I think because I was young, she was trying to take advantage, of that, and being rude to me and making me feel like I didn't belong there because I was the youngest person in the room. And sometimes also adults assume that young people can't do something, and so you do it for them, which like isn't helping. Like parents, I think you should let your children like fly. I know people who couldn't cross the road and they were in university, like alone, crossing a road alone, they could not because they've never done it. Everything they do, everything has been done for them. Let your children do something on their own, let them discover themselves. I also think that sometimes parents or relatives, you make decisions for us. Like let's say if you're making a choice in school, you're good at sciences, you should be this, you should be that. Yet personally, I don't want to do accounting, but I want to do, let's say I want to do entrepreneurship, or I want, let me give an example. In my class, almost everyone did accounting because their parents assume that people who do accounting are going to be more successful. Accounting is, when you step into a room and say, I'm an accountant, it sounds amazing. And so the rest of the classes were empty. Marketing class was empty. And yet some students in class would even tell the lecturers, I don't want to do accounting, but my parents said if I don't do accounting, they won't pay my school fees, they won't pay my tuition. So that's the alternative. You either do accounting or you drop out of school. So parents, look for things that your children are good at and grow them. You never know where this could lead them. If your child picks up interest in music and is like, wants to go and learn piano, and you have the ability to do that, you should enable them learn. When they make mistakes, don't put them down. Everyone is different. I realize that we all take things differently. As a child, you could tell me that when I come home with a bad report and you shout at me and you say, why didn't you read? Why don't you do this? I could have been reading. I could have actually worked hard. But then you telling me that puts me down even more. So I'll be like, even if I read, I didn't pass. So why am I even going to read now? So I'm not going to read anymore. So and then your child starts failing and you don't know why they're failing because you told them that the previous term. So I think the way you approach young people is important, and you should have a conversation with them, because we also have views. Don't dictate things, because in the long run, some children end up resenting their parents because you made them do something they didn't want to do, and for the rest of their life they will say, if it wasn't for you, I would have done this. So yes, that is my message to the elder people. Oh, and one more thing, in the workplace and also in other places, a lot of young girls complain that a lot of older, I don't know why, and yet it's supposed to be the opposite. You're supposed to encourage and build us, and instead, when you step into the workplace, the adults are mean and this and that, and yet you're doing your best. Instead of growing us, you're putting us more down even more. So yes, that's my message to.
Thank you, John. Her message to the elders, that is really, really insightful. Let's give the young people a chance, allow them to try, allow them to fail, and celebrate them. Parents, we need to catch our children doing good. When they do wrong things, we say, we catch them doing wrong, but we never tell the child that, you know what, today you made your bed in the morning without being reminded. That's excellent. Let's catch our children doing good. And finally, as a host, I'm speaking to my young self, my recently young self. I would say stop listening to that voice inside your head. That voice that says you're not pretty enough, that voice that says you're not good enough, that voice that says you will not succeed. Because I listened to that voice, I made a number of mistakes in my life, some of them relationship mistakes. I made a number of, I missed some opportunities that I would have taken on. I looked at other people who were competing for the same position and thought, oh wow, that person is definitely better than me, and I stood back. That thing that talks in your mind, you imagine what other people are saying in your mind, that is the voice that I would have told myself to stop listening to. But now, I totally shut up those voices. Nothing in my mind tells me anything that I listen to, except if it's building me. So thank you very much, everyone. Parents, in the next 2 or 3 weeks, we are going to have a session specifically for you, and we're going to have lots of discussions. Young people who have joined us today, thank you very much. We've been streaming live on Facebook, so the recording is there. I also have a recording, and I will share that with anyone who would like to have a copy. All our panelists, a round of applause. And for everyone who joined us this evening, it's been 2 hours, an amazing 2 hours. I have learned so much, and we'll just keep on moving together. That is the motto of my children's school. It says, keep on moving. And if you want to reach us or reach anybody who has spoken today, please get in touch with me, and I will connect you directly to them. And if you want to get in touch with Care 360 in particular, please feel free to get in touch with us as well. Otherwise, have a great evening. Young people, have a great life. The world is changing. You must change along with it. You will be dropped and left by the wayside. Don't go to bed until you've learned something new. Don't eat if you haven't worked. See how people are looking at me. But yeah, so let's live a life, and we hope that in a few years' time, you will be the ones telling other people, young people, how to live their lives if they want to succeed. Thank you very much, and have a great evening.
Bye.
Woo, good night.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Panelists, thank you so much.
Thank you, John. Thank you,
I'm trying to
John.
balance work and life, you see? Yeah. Okay, bye, everybody.
Grab the book and pass time.
Bye.
Tomorrow.
Stop,
please. Tomorrow is how many hours from today? Please leave me alone. Tomorrow, don't worry. Just go take a shower.
You're saying tomorrow, but you're going to see. Mom is going to wake up, then she's going to start asking me to mop. You guys are going to ask me to cook.